What a great day to be breathing. It could be a great day to be lying there. You know what I mean? If you know Jesus, hallelujah. Have you ever had to climb a rope in gym class? Some of us had to think back a long time, and some of us can remember. Hallelujah. Well, I don't know about you, but I hated it. I hated that gym class. You know, and I got the mustard that, you know, if we put knots in this rope, it'd be easier to climb. But you know, it's too late to put knots in the rope when they already had the lengths already designed. Because that made the rope like, it was like 12 feet too short and we couldn't reach it. Because I tried. And of course you got in trouble for that. But anyway, when you're up on a rope and you begin to come back down from that rope, most people make the mistake of trying to do it quickly because they reach the top or reach as high as they could go. You know, it's very awkwardly when you begin to slide down a rope. It causes rope burn. Your hands, your legs, and that does sound familiar, doesn't it? Rope burns occur when a rope runs across your skin and quickly produce enough friction to result in redness, blisters, loss of skin, and even bleeding. Rope burns can result from any activity that requires a person to handle a rope, like rope climbing, horseback riding, boating. And these injuries can be very painful at times, can't they? So in our text today, I can only imagine that these men experienced rope burns, but out of love for a friend that they pressed past the pain and did whatever it took to get their friend into the presence of the Holy One. Before I get started with this lesson, this is about serving the Lord. This is also about allowing your faith to be used. But remember, faith is like a brand new car. It's shiny. But without love in the car, it's like having a brand new car with no engine. It just look good, it sound good that I got a new car, but it's not going to move. With no love behind your faith is not going to move. And I wonder when we have people in church and something happened and then we say that, well, they had the faith because I seen them. I seen it in action when they prayed. And then things begin to change in their life, and you just wonder, did their love walk diminish? Because with love, faith has to move. It has to move. It has to move on your behalf. So remember that, how you carry yourself with your friends, your enemies. You got to use love to jumpstart your faith, okay? That's a little extra there. But as you do things, and you're doing them in the spirit, and you're using your faith, you got to really check yourself and making sure your love walk is all right. Because you don't want to be looking in God, I prayed to you, why you didn't move for me? I just knew it. Because you easily go back to the doubt. We don't need doubt. You belong to the Father. You are sons and daughters of the Most High God. He moves on your behalf, period. Let's make sure everything is working properly within you. So the title of my message this morning, slide 1, please. I'm looking for some rope holders. Amen? Hallelujah. So turn with me to Mark chapter 2. I'm going to be reading from 1 to 5. Verse 1 starts, a few days later, when Jesus entered in Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. He had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door. And he preached the word to them. Some men came bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get to him, to Jesus, because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it. And then lowered the mat that the man was laying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." So look at that story. There's 4 main groups of people mentioned in here. One was Jesus. Everywhere Jesus went, people followed and wanted to be near him. Imagine that. Why would someone want to be near Jesus? Because he has something they do not have or that they needed. So often we only come to Jesus when we have exhausted all of our resources. Why? You know the answer. Why don't we go to him first? Why? Isn't that the easiest thing to do? But we have been conditioned to use what we know. I wonder as children if we'd have grew up being conditioned to go to Jesus when we messed up and not get threatened that I'm going to send you to Jesus. It's a little different, isn't it? And some of us was on our way to see Jesus. Hey, but really, or does he show up? Why isn't there a crowd? It's something for us to think about. If we were here, then Jesus should also be here, correct? There should be a wonderful light of Jesus shining in all of us, no matter where we are, whether it's here, Walmart, work, playing, the mall, the grocery store, wherever. There should be enough light for everyone to feel his presence and to come running to see what is happening. Who is this man called Jesus? What is it all about that is so different? And how can I come to know Jesus? Even when Jesus tried to enter a city privately, we would say sneaking in. His presence was soon known, and the word spread that Jesus is here. Jesus is here! Jesus is here! What are people in our community saying about Jesus? Or are they seeing any kind of Jesus among us in their midst? Our church should be a light or magnet for everyone to see, and not because the light shines at night. If not, why should they come here? If we are not on fire for the Lord, why should others want to be here with us? What do they see in you and in me that they would be driven here? Secondly, there were people who were sick. There were people who pressed in just to be near him. There were no doubt people who could not see, hear, or walk. Some had diseases, spirits, or some other type of need that only Jesus could see him through. They came with expectations. Did you come with any expectation this morning? Act like it, right? All right. Knowing that their need will be met. That's one thing when you go to the Father and you're around the collective body of believers, one mind, one spirit. And if you allow yourself to get in tune with that, Then you go into the Father. You know, you have all that power in the presence. That's when you can ask in his name. Yeah, you can do it at home, but there's more power when you're in a group of believers. And I know we struggle with that at times. We struggle because we always looking on the inside what I need. How about what my neighborhood need? How about what my far distant relative need when I come looking for help for them? Because I know I'm all right. I have Christ. I know they're seeking for something. Can I help them find it? But I have a connection with the one that can help them. Why don't I make my connection known so I can tell them what's on my mind? You ever come in thinking if I can only touch the hem of the garment of Christ? It's not about the pastor or the leaders that are coming and pray for me. It's about in my mindset, my spirit. Can I just touch his garment? Forget about he ain't here really, but really he is here. See, sometimes you got to let that mind go. Because that mind say, that's only a fragmentation of your thinking. But no, he's real. He's alive. And you got to decide for yourself, is that garment real? Because I can touch him. And he can make me whole. But do everybody believe that? They came. They came. And they came. And then it'd be a wow. I mean, imagine this house is filled with people that no one can get into the door because you have the bystanders. You know, you have the curious people. We just call them the nosy ones. They're not going to get involved, but they're going to take up space. They're going to take up room. They're just going to be in the way. And then if they don't understand, they're going to give their opinion. And their opinion is useless. You know, it's sick people in our community that need Christ. How are we going to get the word to them if we continue to think about my needs after church, what I need to do, where I need to be involved in? Because I got another something to go right after church. All those somethings we put in our calendar, it's not purposely. Sometimes we don't understand what we're getting ourselves into. You don't leave any room open. It's clear after church. I'm available, Lord, if you need me. Just call on me. We want to be disciples, right? But we're not being disciples because we won't put ourselves in a position to be one. You have to position yourself also. You can read, you can be knowledge-filled, spirit-filled, and out of position. When do you say, I give you the 2 hours in the morning, but is that enough? In this one day, we have 24 hours, and we give them the 2. But where is the rest of the hours going? I give you the 10 to sleep. Now it's 12 down. You got a half a day to go. Is any carved out for the Lord to do his work? I'm just asking. So what hope will the outsiders have? They're not going to come in because they weren't invited. Man, nobody's talking to me. I got a church full, not full, but full. Because your presence, it takes over a couple of seats. Your presence. Some of these neighbors been bound by drugs and alcohol. They've been addicted to things. They've been hurt. They've been bruised. They don't know how to be friendly. They're being protective of themselves. Why you look at me like that? But aren't we supposed to love first? Take the judgment and just kick it out of your life. You have the Holy Spirit. It won't lead you wrong. You don't have to use your mind to say how this person is because of the way they look. You don't know how they are because of their look. Their look is deeper than who they are. That's not who they are. And they could be bruised. They could have been made a fool of before in their life. They're apprehensive of going places that they don't understand and don't know anyone. And sometimes we have to take time to get to know our neighbors. If you understand depression, you have a lot of people can walk and look normal and depressed. They can't do but their normal things that they're used to doing. They won't go to church because that's not used to them. They're not used to that. Because their mind will say, what they're going to think about me? And really, nobody's thinking anything about you, but that's how we think. Because our mind has been affected by life. And it causes us to be conditioned in a way. Some of them just can't love back. When you bruise so much or been bruised too many times, taken advantage of, that iron wall gets put up in one's guard and will not let anyone cross that. But you know, you have the power to break whatever they put up. You have the power that works on the inside of you. The Holy Spirit. Remember last week how he shined that arrow? The point of this polished, it can break through anything. That spear. And it's not dangerous spear where you cutting them. It's a spear of love. When you touch them in a way that no one touched them like that before. By speaking kind words to their unkind ways. I notice when people are sick, they no longer are so offensive about God or praying. It's an avenue for you. But are you in the position on that avenue? They are willing to accept any kind of help. But don't take the trust and disregard of their heart. So again, we must position ourselves to be in a position to help. Help is not always money. Help is a lot of times an ear. Help is information. Help is kindness. Somehow the churches have gotten the idea that others should come to them. But in truth, we should be going out to them. Wherever they are, we can find, because we have the Holy Spirit. It would direct us to the truth. Do we trust our own spirit? Jesus still cares for all of them, no matter what they've done in life, who they are, or whether they have money or position or not. That there's nobodies out there. He loves them. And you know, I used to be a nobody. I don't know about you, because if I say you was a nobody, you get upset at that. Because I'm somebody. Let me ask you again, why aren't they flocking into our church or pressing in to see Jesus? Or do they know that he's even here? Wow, isn't it? When you think about it. Jesus comes for the whosoever of this world. But it takes people like you and me to allow them to see Jesus or to get them to know he is here. Just as the story unfolds, our part is to share that Jesus is in town. He didn't tell you, don't tell nobody, I'm here. He's already been killed, all right? It's not a secret anymore, all right? Let the word out. We need to be visible and more vocal in our communities. As a church, what messages are we sending? Do we need to revisit our message of how can we be a better communicator? Or our message, how do we get the message out to a sick and dying world? If we all believe that if you receive him, you can go to heaven. But how about the ones that don't receive him? Oh, they have an opportunity. They will have an opportunity. But you know, in our first encounter, a lot of times it's rejection because we're used to rejecting things that we are not comfortable with. But as you make it comfortable to them, they can really understand that Jesus is really all right and he could be my friend. So that is our challenge today. Thirdly, there are people who were curious there. And again, I would say that's nosy. You know, they want to see what's going on. You know, what are they doing there? Why do those people keep going in their house? Let's go see. Have you ever noticed when a church is growing and how people will talk and just come to see what's happening? You have a lot of people just coming to see what's happening. They fill the seats. They don't want to be engaged. They don't want to have a part because they don't understand. People will travel from everywhere just to experience or witness what is happening when they hear. People are really curious. When a new business is coming in the town near you, people usually cannot settle until they find out what is happening or who's moving in. See, now we have a computer within our pocket, and we'll Google it. The information. I say we're nosy because we want to know before it's happening. We lost patience in life. Everything that I can find out, if I can find out, I'm going to do it. And what I can't, I'm going to be upset about it because I should know what's happening. Don't I have a right? But that's how we get now. We think we have a right to know everything. You know, I wish our country would slow down, telling everybody everything. We don't need to know what the Ukrainians are doing and where they're hiding. Because if we know, their enemies know. A war supposed to be fought among them, not blasted all around society and thinking everybody needs to know everything. Oh, they got new missiles now. Oh, they can stop your missiles. And here we go. And as you get to talking, people think they have the right to know because we're really nosy people. We got so much information now, we need more information to keep us going. I give you all this information about Christ, you got it at home. Will that keep you in your interest? That pique your interest enough? Or you need more? You need Christ to come and be here so you can see that his power is for real. His authority is real. I don't want to go the other way that I'm thinking, that when we die, we'll know he's real. Why keep messing around with that? What are people saying about our church? Are they curious of all the stirring or the talking about a powerful move of God? Are they wondering what is happening down here? Are they aware that Jesus is in town? The crowd was so large, all the doors and windows were so blocked that no one else could enter. They couldn't have access to the one, which is Jesus, who people really needed to see or to gain his attention. Curious people, nosy people were blocking others from receiving their blessings. What a shame. I'm hoping as we grow that we don't have too many of those type of people flocking in where others need Jesus would be left out. I don't know if they could come through the roof all right here. It's a little different. We need to be careful of that. That when you come, you have a need. You want Jesus to meet you, that your need is taken care of. It might not be individual, but you know someone that's needed, has a need that needs to be met. We also need to be careful of the people who are drawn from other places that add no value to our vision and our church. To be honest, these kinds of people have hindrances everywhere they go, never satisfied. We need to guard against compromise or losing our vision due to their negative influence. Fourthly, there are people who think outside of the box. I like them. I want you to listen to me. They do not let anything come between their goal or the vision set out because they have a purpose of reaching the end. They say, how can we make this happen? They brainstorm on ideas. They just don't close their mind down and just listen. They give support to the idea. Working together in unity and implementing their plan regardless. Too often people allow the little things to hinder their progress and to stay on a path that God desires. See, let me tell you something. When you put forth an idea, and it comes from your mind, your spirit, however it gets there, and you get rejected, see, sometimes, a lot of times, you get rejected purposely. God wants, because he knows what's wrong. You need to be rejected so you can come back again. Just because you rejected, that don't mean you shut down. Because God wants you to see where you are. How can I use you because you got a strike? Now you're stepping back. You're supposed to keep going forward. Don't give up. And every idea, that's because it was spoken, that don't mean it was understood. If God gave you that idea, you keep praying that the ears need to hear will be open. And that's what prayer does. It releases, which opens up, which allows the thought to come in. But when we get upset, step back, we're not praying, we're still angry. Remember, faith worketh through love? And you get challenged with that all the time. It seems like, when will you get over this? That's like the biggest hurdle that you have in your life. And you can see everywhere it happens like that. On the job, at church, in your meetings, everywhere. Even in your relationships. Break them, Lord. Break us. In the name of Jesus, oh Lord. Hallelujah. First, they decided if they cannot go through the door, we're going down from the roof. We're going to make a way. They uncovered the roof where Jesus was. In this day and time, the houses had flat roofs, and they joined together. It was almost like a backyard on top of the house, because we could be up there, we could talk, we could walk to each other's house from the top. It is not improbable that they ascended to the neighbor's house and came over the wall where Jesus was. They removed the curtain or the awning drawn over the area where Jesus was so they might let the man, down before him. See, that was an idea. Somebody had to come up with the idea. The other 3 or 4 could have had an idea because it's 5 total, right? They had ideas. They had to have ideas. Because after you carrying somebody from a place to a place, you know you're tired. You want this person to get what they want. They had to do it in love. Okay? Because you read the end of chapter 7 where Jesus said, because of your faith, your sins have been forgiven. See, but he was paralyzed. My mind said, well, why didn't he pray for him to be healed? That don't matter. What matters is that his spirit gets right with God. If you read in verse 11, he told him to pick up your mat and let's walk. But he was paralyzed. No, he was healed. See, a lot of times we're healed, but we think because we still have something, we're not healed. But you need to pick up and go. Act like you're good. You prayed. Did you believe? Okay. There you go. Secondly, they did not care of what others thought. In your heart, raise your hand if you care what others think. They did not form a committee or ask for public opinion. They did not have a direction and plan to accomplish their goal. As they went, they had to devise the plan because their plan was to go through the door. I can't make it through the door. Do you give up? You keep on until you get what you need. Why do we give up? We quit. We have the power to change things. We too, as a church, should not be worried about public opinion about us or trying to draw all men to Jesus. Who cares if they called you a holy roller or whatever the names are? I don't even hear them anymore. Oh, you a pastor? Oh, okay. That's all they know. They fold their hands. Bow their head. I'm not God. Because they don't know what to do. Just relax. I'm all right. You all right. I can't send you to hell or heaven. I can lead you. And we're not serving them. We're serving him. But serving him, you serve him uprightly. Because you can't bring shame to him. Right? No matter how yourself you want to be. Because you've been bought for a price, so you're not of your own anymore, right? So stop saying, I could do what no. You can't do everything you want to do. Because people are watching. And that's kind of where we get lost at sometimes. Because we get in our feelings. And then we begin to show our feelings. And then as a bystander, I don't want to be like that. And then they say, what church do they go to? What does they in the church have to do? Because every time they go out that door, they don't carry the church burdens. They don't hardly listen to the words. Because their life would change. I'm telling you. But Jesus is the sign. It should be, I'm a what? A participant of Jesus? A follower. And if you're Christ-like, you represent him, you're supposed to be like him. Right? I can't be myself. Well, that is your new self. Do you know who you are? Maybe that's the problem. We don't understand whose we are. Erica, you're not of yourself anymore. God desires the church to move forward and bring all manner of men before him. Thirdly, they also had to work in unity That's where we come. I'd rather do it myself. We don't need a worker like that. We need a worker that'll bring people together because of strength together. That's why the enemy always trying to divide, to conquer you. Individually, I can conquer you. Together is very harder. Have you ever tried to let someone down with 4 ropes? And you the one holding all 4 ropes? It takes a unit. And then you got to work together for that to work properly so the person or the thing won't fall out of what you're trying to lower. See, it's important that we're on the same page because you have the same vision for the same goal. It's very important. If one person jumps at it too fast, the thing going to slide out. As a church, we must work and move in unity for one purpose and one purpose only, to see the lost won to Jesus Christ. Things to consider about these rope holders. First of all, I hope we have many rope holders here today. But let me also state that not everyone in church is a rope holder. You have to understand that. And that don't mean they're not a part. Everybody can't do every job. Who would you trust to lower you a rope or lower you down? We can all relate to the question, but are we talking about church people? Not everybody has the same commitment to our vision, nor do they have a burning desire to bring in others. You know, the thing with that is that you don't know that is the, you know, you want to feel joy filled, you want to feel a purpose filled. That is the best thing you could do for Christ. Lead others to Christ. You get something on the inside like never before. It's a feeling that is deeper than a feeling. When you see somebody else's life change and you was the one directing that change. Oh, yeah. It seemed like this is the hardest thing to talk about, to deal with. Being disciples, going out witnessing. Things have to change. We're in 2022, getting ready to hit 23, and we just started 22. We're not like back in the old days where you just get a bunch of tracts and we go to Potomac Avenue and pass it out, and then somebody come back and ask you this question, and you get them saved right there. It ain't like that no more. You got to figure out how to reach them. You know, sometimes if the church is quiet and we're doing something, everybody pull out their phones. If we get a way to put the message on the phone and send it to them, they'll get it. But what will they do with that message in that quick look? It got to be something to touch their hearts right fast. It can't be a long, drawn-out, 1-hour service because they start tuning out. Their heads start falling down. Their eyes start closing. Oh, I'm not talking about you, am I? Oh. Well, let's examine the elements of a good rope holder. Sometimes it might be all right to talk to your neighbor and keep you up and keep you generalized. You have a neighbor and y'all don't talk. One head start falling, the other one looking, the eyes stare. I move, the eyes still staring. Uh-oh. I got you. They must have an interest in the person they are helping. Not everyone who attends this church will have the compassion and interest in the lost. That is the reason why churches are not growing across America, pure and simple. Very simply put, people are more interested in themselves and what they can gain than caring for others. As we continue our journey to becoming disciples for Christ, the process of renewing our mind to become servants surely must be a model after Jesus. If not, we are just going through a religious, self-satisfying act. Jesus had the mindset of a servant, and we should too. Let's look at this in the scriptures. Turn with me to Philippians 2, 4 through 7. I want to figure out how to get this out every service. And it starts off and says, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. So how can we adopt Christ's mindset? You got to choose to. You got to choose to be different. You're a new creation through Christ. You're not the same old person. You know who you are. I'm a born-again believer with my destination already secured. You're supposed to know who you are. It's all right to serve when you know who you are. You're not less than. You're more than an overcomer through Christ Jesus. You got to understand that. Stop looking at yourself different when you serve. It's a joy to serve. But I just don't understand when people want to just serve in the soup kitchen. I don't understand. They're not even saved, but they think that's the greatest thing in the world to do, to feed hungry people. But yet, will you go and talk to the hungry people and sit down with them and see what their problem is? See what happened. That's a burdensome, isn't it? That's a little different. I can feed you and let you go on your way. But if I have to sit with you and begin to hear, and then I begin to feel a certain kind of way, and then would you be obligated to make some calls to see if you could help? That's the compassion of Christ. For all the ones that wouldn't say nothing, what would you do? Jesus could serve because he knew who he was. Serving was never a threat to him because he never lost sight of who he was. He was never insecure of his identity. He knew his position with the Father. When you know who you are, a saint and a son or daughter of God, rendering service won't be a problem. It's when you don't know who you are that serving becomes a problem. When you are unsure of your identity, you'll fear that serving is beneath you, that you somehow be taken advantage of if you serve others. Let me ask you a question here. Slide 2. What is the purpose of the church? A large group of pastors and church members were asked this question. What is the main purpose of a church? 90% of the pastors stated was to reach the lost. 10% stated to meet the needs of the people. When the church members was asked the same question, 90% of them said something a little different. They stated that the purpose of the church was to meet their own needs. Only 10% stated that it was to reach the lost. I think this got to get turned around, huh? No wonder churches are not growing. They are not working together, being double-minded, seeking their own pleasures. If we expect our church to grow, we must stop thinking about ourselves and have a burning desire for others. So many times we get so caught up in our own departments, our activities, and needs that we forget the main purpose as to the reason why we are here. It is not just to gather. It is more than just worship, which is very important, But we should also be a lighthouse for all those who are lost and perishing. How many people do we pass coming to church? Do we become so callous and in such of a hurry to come to church to do the things that we seem to ignore everyone else's need for Jesus? Their plan may be different than the traditional ways. Who would ever think about tearing off the roof to lower someone down to Jesus? You can't do that, someone would say. We are not used to doing things that way or worshiping that way. Bro, so-and-so never did it that way. Why are you trying to do that? For all you animal lovers, it's just the same. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Okay? That's my favorite saying. I wouldn't skin nothing, okay? But maybe a fish. Sorry. I got in trouble for saying that around the wrong person one time. And I stopped. I said, no, you ain't going to shut my mouth. Because it's just a saying. I don't love a cat, but I wouldn't hurt a cat, okay? It's like some things you like and some things you deal with and some things you don't, and you don't deal with it. It's all right. Isn't that my choice? Thank you. So it's different ways to do whatever you believe that God is showing you to do, to reach the lost. Okay? Tracks was a way. If you're still in the track way, wake up. We're evolving. Involve. Stop saying, I don't have no tracks to give out. Well, open your mouth. Send scriptures out. You have a device, they have a device. Ask for the phone number then. That'll make you talk. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, you don't want to change, do you? You know, the way I've always done it might not be good enough for the day. Their faith or lack of it pulls down the energy that causes hindrances. Slide 3, please. Rope holders never listen to the naysayers. They have a purpose and a mission to accomplish. If we are not careful, we can get so stuck in tradition that we forget the main purpose to reach Jesus. Reaching the lost 40 years ago with tracks is not what we need today. People today have not been used to having prayer in schools. We got to remember that. Things have changed so much. Having a God-fearing nation that did not believe in compromise and had godly values, we're losing that. To reach the people today may look different than it used to because the generations today are much different. I don't know about you, but this is good stuff to me because it opens up my eyes and spirit. Again, reaching the lost today may look different than what we used to do, but our world is so much different. Let me emphasize, while we can approach things differently, our message must be the same. Jesus loved you, and so do we. They must know that Jesus is alive and cares for them. We must develop and stand unified to a vision and a plan to reach the lost, or otherwise, my friend, we will dwindle down to nothing. Denying God's will for this church and community, and I know we don't want to hear it, but being held accountable to God for doing what? Nothing. Slide 4, please. Will God say, why did you care so much for yourself, but ignore those who needed me? Are you hearing me today? The rope holders were not being selfish or thinking about their own needs, but had an overwhelming desire to help this person and make every possible way for them to meet Jesus. We should also have that overwhelming desire to help others come to know Jesus and to do whatever it takes to make that happen. Coming through a roof was doing whatever it takes. That's thinking outside of the box. I hope they fix the roof back. Pushing beyond those who are curious or sightseers, those who are selfish for their own needs, and those who are spectators that go from church to church. We must get people in front of Jesus. As I close today, we must work together in unity for one purpose. They showed up. So many people have good intentions and can agree with our church moving forward, but the truth of the matter is some will not show up. I love my sleep time. Again, we can't focus on these people, but continue to move ahead. In order to make a difference, the rope holders had to do something more than agree on how to do something. They had to actually implement it into action. They had to tear off the roof, position this person over the opening, and lowered him down to Jesus. Secondly, it means that these people had to go to this person and bring him to meet Jesus. All the plans in the world will not work unless we go where they are. It might mean rolling up our sleeves to go outside of our church, canvassing our community, having special outreach programs for the people in the community, but always staying true to our plan with as much effort as we can where the people are. Thirdly, the unity that these four rope holders have shown is that they all had a purpose to work together to ensure that this person catches the attention of Jesus, who will bring the restoration and healing to the lost and hurting. I don't know about you, but I want our church to do everything possible to lead others to Christ, doing everything possible to make sure that they hear his message and work together to see the community won for Jesus. Are you a rope holder here today? Are you willing to do something different to gain different results? Are you willing to give up your seat for someone else in the community that they may not act or dress or look like we are here? What are you willing to sacrifice and do in order to accomplish what God truly desires for this church and every church across America? Again, the reason why churches are not growing in America is that the church is more focused on ourselves instead of others. Oh, that we can have many rope holders among us. I want to encourage all of us to rethink about our role and position in the church. I know we all love the fellowship with one another, and there should be. We have people here who have experience and knowledge to lead others to Christ. We need to ask God for the energy and the wisdom to make this happen. Slide 5, please. Will God someday ask us, you seem to care more for your own self than others? Slide 6, please. Or will he say, well done, thou good and faithful servant? Jesus saw their faithfulness and rewarded their labor. Amen? Amen. I'm sorry for keeping you a little longer today, but I hope it's all right. It's still under 12 o'clock, and you got a lot to think about. We do have a lot to think about because this here is bigger than us. I'm retired. I want to quit, but then the fire in me said, no, ain't no quitting. It's too much work needs to be done. You know, it's easy to put your feet up on the chair and say, I'm done. I done worked a long life. But you know, I have breath in my body. I still think the engine can go. And I think I still should push it. That's my choice. I want to push it. But you got to get motivated because I need you. I need each and every one of you. Each and every one of you are special. You have something special to give out. But you got to open up and begin to allow God to use you. But you got to choose. Are you going to stay on the sidelines, or are you going to get in the game? You're all talented enough to get in the game, but are you willing enough to play the game? So as we stand on our feet and give some thanks and praises to our God, I want every one of you to holler out loud, Jesus. You know, you're in church, but you can do that. Everybody. Jesus! Yeah, open your mouth like you're hollering at somebody in your yard. Jesus!